Hi there, my name's Lucy Pearson. I'm a producer, an artist, and a music production tutor at Access Creative College. And today I wanted to share some tips and tricks for how I like to edit my backing vocals in songs. Um, so I really love to layer up quite a lot of layers of backing vocals and play around with arrangements and things like this. It's just kind of become my hobby. um, so I thought it would be useful today to break down a work in progress track that I've been working on and use that as an example to talk through what the settings I use on my vocals and how I like to treat them. Okay, cool. So here we are in the track. Um, okay, so I have all of my vocals. Da, 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 da. Down here. Now I'll give you a blast of the chorus of the track. It's always the same. Choosing between all the guys. I realize I didn't say no. I didn't say no. Yeah, so that's the general vibe that we have going on, and here's the backing vocals and main vocals just soloed on that bit where there's a bit more going on. I know I can say no. Okay, so the first thing I'd say with backing vocals is that timing is quite important. So if you've got layers of backing vocals, which I like to do quite a good few layers of backing vocals, making sure that the timing is as on point as you can get it. So obviously the most simple way of doing that is to try and sing with as accurate timing as you can. But if you want to get really fussy about it, which I do like to, you can use the Logic Flex Time feature. So that's this little button up the top here. I haven't done this because these two are actually pretty good timing wise. Let me try and find an example. Right, I'll just demonstrate anyway. So turn on the flex time on the track here, and it will analyze the audio for transients, so the start of different words, and then you can move these about so it's perfectly quantized with where you want that phrase to sit in the track. Okay, I'm going to undo that because it was quite nicely in time as it was, but I thought worth talking about the flex time feature. On the main vocal here, I have an EQ in there first. So the EQ is getting rid of anything below about 200 hertz. I don't have a very bassy voice. I mean, I've sort of bass elements to my voice, which is why I like to leave in around 300 hertz here for the body of my voice. And then I've got this quite dramatic cut about 800 hertz to remove any kind of boxy frequencies, and then I'm just letting all the high frequencies through. So yeah, I have got a noise gate on next. Okay, so that's just removing any of the silences in between phrases. And I've got some compression in there. This is the old school Logic 9 compressor actually, and I kept it saved in my channel strip settings for my pop vocal preset channel settings, and I really like it still, so I still use that. And then I've got a bit of pitch correction on there as well, and I've got a bus that's going to some reverb. Okay, I'm using this nice Arturia reverb plate. emulation. So yeah, and another thing to note is I really like using comp folders for my vocals. So in Logic, when you record over the top of a take, it makes a take folder. So here in this instance, I obviously was happy with 2 takes, but I can do up to, 10 different takes of something and pick out my favourite parts of it using the quick swipe comp feature here. To get my favourite bits. Okay, so that's this part here. Let me just unsolo the rest of the vocals. And now I know what I can say no. Okay, so that particular part is doing more of an ad-libby part over the top of the rest of the vocals. So for my ad-lib parts, I want them to sit a little bit further back in the mix than the main parts that I'm going to hear repeated in the choruses. So that has a bit more reverb on there, but it's still sitting quite prominently in the mix. Then my main vocals here that are just doing I can say no. Got that main vocal part there that's doing that main line, and it's got some echo on there. I think I used the Echo Boy. Yeah, so Echo Boy from the effect rack there from Sound Toys. Really love that. So that's like the main central part. So often I like to have my main vocal sitting centrally in the mix, up front. So not loads of reverb typically for my main vocal, so it's sitting centrally really close to the listener. So starting from there, having a main vocal sitting centrally in the mix with not too much reverb on it, the backing vocals, I like to kind of complement that. I like to kind of think about it as if you've got a bunch of vocalists or a bunch of me just duplicated in a room. You'll have that main vocal standing really close and right in front of the listener. And then you want to think about where can the other vocals fit so that somebody can still hear them. So if I was to put my harmony in the same spot as my main vocal, it would be harder for me to hear each part individually. So here is my first pair of backing vocals. I like to record backing vocals in pairs and then pan it at equal distances left or right. So this first pair I have are panned very slightly left and right. So -17 and +17. So they're still sitting quite close to the main vocal, which means I want someone to hear them quite prominently, but they're still separated somewhat. I can say no. Okay, so I wanted them to still be prominent because they're doing their own thing, but also just in support of the main vocal there. So I'll have 2 there doubled up on either side. So worth noting as well, these both have reverb on them, but they don't have much. You can see that it's practically dry there. That really depends on what your backing vocals are trying to say and how they've been delivered. In this case, I've sang them very softly, and so therefore I want it to kind of feel that vocal is right up close to somebody's ears. So I don't necessarily want loads of reverb on them, but just a sort of light kiss of reverb, so that they sound like they are in the same space as my main vocal. If I was doing backing vocals just for the sake of harmonies, if they weren't doing something different to the main vocal that I wanted someone to hear in the song, if it was just harmonising with the main vocal, I would put much more reverb on because I don't need the clarity in the vocal in that instance. Okay. So then we move along to my second pair of backing vocals here. Let's just have a quick listen to what that's doing. I can say Okay, whoops, I've still got the main vocal playing there. But that's just harmonizing with those two first backing vocals. So I've got those panned slightly wider to the first pair of backing vocals. First were plus and minus 17, and these are plus and minus 33. So they're sitting separately in the headphone mix to the main and first pair of backing vocals. I think it's worth noting that when you kind of get out to the wider regions of the stereo field, order it in prominence, with the centre being the most prominent part. Pretty much the same settings in there as those first ones, just panned a bit wider. Okay, and these two backing vocals are mixed to sound super thin as well. The first pair of backing vocals are still including quite a lot of the low end of my voice, whereas the second pair of backing vocals, I have got rid of that whole part of my voice. So that is, again, to just have a bit more separation. This pair of vocals is just harmonising with that first pair. They don't need to be as prominent as the first pair of vocals. Okay, I'm going to move down to the next lot. We've got two pairs of backing vocals here. I can say no. So I've got that first pair sitting as wide as they can go in the mix, and that's just to create complete separation from what's going on more centrally in the mix. We've got our main vocal, first pair, second pair of backing vocals. Third pair of backing vocals are doing something completely different, so I want them completely separate from the other vocals. And then I've got the harmony of those vocals, which is sitting slightly more central in the mix. We can see here it's plus and minus panned 50, and these are completely as wide as they'll go. Those two have the same EQ settings on them as my second pair of backing vocals, so they're very thin in the mix, and they have slightly more reverb as well, because I don't need to hear them super clearly. Altogether, we have quite a nice mix of vocals here. I can say no. So I suppose the main things I think about are EQ, whether or not I want the body of my voice to come through around that 300 hertz mark. It might be different for the vocals that you're recording. Every voice is different, but that's just where the kind of richness of my voice comes through. If I want that vocal to be more prominent, I will include that frequency range, whereas if I wanted to just be supporting other vocals like a harmonic part, then I will likely, remove a bit of that. Unless it's a low harmony, in which case I will need that body in there. The next thing is reverb as well, and how you can use reverb to create distance versus closeness in a mix. So do you want to hear those vocals as if they are right next to someone's ear, or do you want to hear them as if they're just sort of supporting the rest of the vocals further back? And then the other thing I think about is panning. So where in the stereo field do you want your vocals to sit? And I think recording multiple takes of the same vocal is a really effective way to get a really full sounding collection of vocals. And then another tip I have is that for the backing vocals, I have them all running to a bus which has track spacer on it. So what you can do with that is you can sidechain this to something in your mix. In this case, I've got them sidechained to the kick, which is doing a 4 to the floor pattern. And what it will do is it's like ducking out the frequency range of the kick. Okay, so my vocals aren't particularly bassy, but they still have that low mid range of frequencies there, and by doing that the vocals can kind of bounce along with the other instruments in the track. So I've got that same bus that the synths will be running to, my bass track will be running to as well, so that everything is making room for the kick in the mix. What you can do as well is you can have a high cut, so it's not gonna cut anything out that's above here. I don't need it to do that because I want my really airy frequencies to be there constantly. So I can say no. Okay, hopefully you can kind of hear that there, but it's quite a nice thing to add, and it helps your vocals to pop out in the parts that you want them to pop out in a track of this style. I hope that was helpful. I feel like I could talk about vocal production for ages, but yeah, I hope those were some helpful tips, and yeah, thanks for watching.